Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome back to where we're going through the top 100 games on Board Game Geek, and I'm just giving my opinions on those and thoughts on that. So far, of the 91 through 100, I played 8 of them. As I look through today's list, I have played every single one of them, so that's all well and good. Like I said, I played most of the games in the top 100. Now last time, number 100 was Steam. Here we can see that number 90 is Railways of the World, which was originally called Railroad Tycoon. Now, Railroad Tycoon, the board game, this was kind of an easier method of Age of Steam. Age of Steam was a really tight game, had a few cities, you had to transport goods back and forth. Railways of the World took that and made it a huge map, and also with a lot of plastic pieces. So you can see here on this picture, you can see the plastic pieces. Let me see if I can find a picture of the whole board itself, because it's a really big board. And they've made, different, here's a good one. This shows the whole board. It's really huge. And, this is actually both boards. They put together the west and east map, but even just one of the boards. See how big that board is? That's much bigger than the other one. When you put them together, I never played with both of them together. But the thing about Railways of the World was it was an easier thing. You wanted to connect to some cities, you could. And if someone blocked you over here, you just built in another part of America. Some people didn't like that. I actually enjoyed that more. I like the bigger sprawling game. I also like the plastic pieces. When you look at this, you know this is a train game. Now the tough thing is, if you say to me, do you like Steam better or do you like Railways of the World better? That's a harder call. Steam is probably technically, for me, a better game, but I think when push comes to shove, I'd probably play Railways of the World first. Either way, it is an excellent game. Number 89 is Istanbul, which was once Constantinople. Why they changed it, no one can say. Istanbul won the Kennerspiel, so that's obviously going to get it some votes on the list for sure. The whole idea of, let me see, the board itself being a randomized board, which really didn't matter. Right? It didn't matter that the board was randomized. They have some specific layouts of the board that you could do, but you're moving around the board and you are essentially have this stack of workers and you're dropping the workers off in different areas. When Istanbul came out, the whole worker movement phase wasn't really a thing at that point in time. And it was more of worker placement games. But this worker movement thing came about with Istanbul, and the pieces look nice, again, that you had a variable board, and you are trying to find the most efficient way, so the efficient route to get over here, pick up these, to go over here and trade them in for victory points. And there's different ways to do different things on this board, and each board becomes essentially like a puzzle of sorts. Now, like I said, Istanbul came out and won the Kennerspiel. It was 2014, so that is 4 years ago. This is a game that I have definitely, for my own eyes, seen passing the test of time. It's a game that when I go to meetups, I see people playing it. They've released expansions for it. There's variant games based on it, and it's just a game that has done really well, and I enjoy it too. Now we're at Commands and Colors Ancients. There's a lot of Commands and Colors games in the Board Game Geek database. These all started with Battle Cry from Richard Borg, which I believe came out around 1999. And then the big one, of course, the one that beats them all, Memoir 44, in sales and everything else. This one came after Memoir 44 from GMT, and I remember reading the threads and people were excited. Ancient battles. Then they said they weren't doing plastic miniatures and they were going to do counters, but then they changed to blocks with stickers on both sides and it blocks it up, and that works pretty well. Not everyone likes it. This one is possibly the most critically acclaimed of the series. They've come out with a lot since then, Napoleonics and World War I, a lot of them. But this one is the one, I think they made 5 expansions for this one, that just really seemingly, I've seen very few bad things said against this one. It is not a heavy war game, although I feel like there's a lot of depth in this one. This one has a lot of emphasis on hold the line and moving your troops around. It also lets you use elephants, that was kind of a cool thing. And it does a really cool job at taking a lot of historical battles and putting them in the forefront. Here's the historical thing that happened, and pretty easy setup, rolling dice. The components could be better. It is GMT. The boards are ugly. The dice are eh. The blocks with the pictures, they look pretty good, and it looks pretty neat when it's set up. But it's just how easy it is to play. It's not as easy as Memoir, but it offers it seemingly a lot more strategic to it. So let me show you here. This is an image of, you know, the setup, and you can see the blocks here. And leaders were a big part of this game. So you can see one of the Roman leaders over here. You can see some cavalry units. And like I said, even though the board is the game itself just looks really nice, and it had a lot of really cool attributes to it. So that's Command & Colors Ancients. Then Chaos in the Old World. This is definitely a review of mine that we've taken more heat for any other review. I think Chaos in the Old World is a fine game. There's a lot of strategy to it. It is definitely a precursor to Blood Rage, which, while they're not the same game, you can definitely sense some similarities to them. But Chaos in the Old World by Eric Lang, and this is the game that made Eric Lang a designer that people paid attention to. I was never a huge fan of it because the game itself, as you can see here in this picture here, the map itself is on a stretched skin. I found that a little disturbing. Not to mention, in this game, you're all evil gods trying to destroy the earth in different ways. However, the component quality, well, it's Fantasy Flight, so you definitely can't argue with that. The component quality that has all these different miniatures, the fact that they're very, very, very different, the way the different creatures, the different figures are on the board, the factions, and how they each have different ways to win. That comes together in a very strategic, very good game. So while the theme itself is not my style, it definitely is a game that a lot of people liked, and I certainly can understand that the game itself was very well done. And just because I don't like the theme doesn't mean that I hate the game. I feel like I'm being a little bit too justifying here. But you can see here all these different things with different cards, and you fought each other, just trying to expand and destroy humanity as one of your goals. That's Chaos in the Old World. Number 86 is really new to the list. As you can see at the time of me doing this, it has only 3,007 rankings, and that's Clans of Caledonia. That's a lot, though, considering the game came out from 2017. This is one of the few new games that has broken the top 100, ranked 87. You can see that it's strategy number 49. And this is another one of those games that really doesn't look like a lot. When you look at this picture here, this looks like every other picture of games where you have a bunch of hexes on the board and you're moving around different pieces, but you're not really moving them down. I think some ways, in essence, that Clans of Caledonia is a stock market game. I'm not sure if that's the best way to describe it, but you're going to be getting resources each turn on your board. You can see the board down here in the corner. This board is going to give you resources based on which ones you've managed to get onto the board. So it's a nice way of showing how much you get, while at the same time giving you a visual depiction of that on the board. And some things will come on the board and off the board, like the cows. If you eat them, they come off the board. And you're trying to deliver goods to get things. But I think what I really like, for me personally, about Clans of Caledonia, see right here, the person who's playing this, Clan Cunningham, they have the ability to sell milk for 8. No one else has that ability. For most people, milk is useful, but not useful for 8 coins. So this team's strategy, if you pick that, it's going to be all about delivering that milk. And so Clans of Caledonia is a good Euro game, but when you add these really cool special clan abilities and make each person unique and different, that's where the game really did it for me. Now, one of the interesting things is the designer of Clans of Caledonia is really not a household name. Huma here, when I click on him, Clans of Caledonia is his breakthrough game. But before that, you can see that Green Deal, and a couple other games here that I don't know, Green Deal only has 172 people who own it, 115 people who rated it. I thought Green Deal was an excellent little game it's hard one to explain. Go watch my review of it. So I was really interested in Clans of Caledonia, but with Clans of Caledonia, he got, Green Deal's ranked 7,081, Clans of Caledonia up to 94. His next game, I'm sure, will really have people looking to see what it is. Number 85 is Ticket to Ride Europe. Now, Ticket to Ride has been an incredibly popular game ever since it came out. Ticket to Ride Europe was the second game to come out in the series. It came out in 2005 after Ticket to Ride came out in 2004. This was essentially the same game with a European map, but they made a few changes. One, they had some stations that you could put where you could connect routes even if you didn't get all the links there. And they also had 2 different types of tickets. They had long tickets and short tickets. And it was just a very different map. It's a much more easygoing game. It doesn't have the quite meanness that Ticket to Ride can have. Ticket to Ride doesn't have to be a mean game, but it can be mean. So we look here, and this shows, this particular picture is showing all 6 routes, the long routes in the game. So you start with one long route, but then you have these other ones. Oh, it also introduced the railways, where they went through mountains and ferries. So there was a couple other small things. I forget sometimes that these small things have shown up in every other game. I think Ticket to Ride Europe is the least distinct. Most time when I talk about a different Ticket to Ride map, I'll say, well, this map does this, and this map does this. And Ticket to Ride Europe, well, it just started a lot of those things. But again, it's an extremely popular map, and I can't fault people for liking it. I think for myself, it may be my least favorite map of the series, but it's still pretty cool. That's Ticket to Ride Europe. Number 84 is Nations. Now, this one surprised me that it was in the top 100. Now, that's not because I don't like Nations. I really do like Nations. But I feel like Nations plays best with 2 players, and yet at the same time doesn't feel fulfilling with 2 players. See, with 4 players, the game is long. You're drafting cards and building your own little nation in front of you and doing different things. It's just that, let me see if I can show a picture of some of the cards that you'll be getting as time goes by. Here we go. This is a progress board. It says set up for the first round, and so I might want some leaders. I might want some to take over some territories. This game was a serious competitor through the ages when it came out. I just felt like it took a little longer than it should have. With 2 players, it zinged along pretty well, but because not every card in the decks came out, you could sometimes not see a certain type of card show up as much as you would want it to. I also thought that Nations, the dice game, even though that's really just a quick dice game, as opposed to this more bigger grandiose game, was, for me, also put Nations down a little. Now, Nations is fine, but I don't know that I would play it again because I like Through the Ages better, and I like Nations, the dice game. And even though this is a big game, it is still all on cards, so you have to take that into account. However, very, very popular game, obviously, for being number 84. Number 83 is Suburbia. Now, Ted Alspach started Bezier Games. Ted Alspach was a very big into board gaming, did a little comic strip about board games back in the day. And Bezier Games had a few small games. Suburbia was his first, maybe not his first hit, but definitely his most critically acclaimed game. And he hasn't managed to bring a game out that has been as popular as Suburbia since, although some of them are very, very well renowned. Suburbia is a city building game, and it's a city building game, and this shows a lot of the different tiles in the game. This is not necessarily a city. You can build the city with these tiles, and each of these tiles, on your turn, you're going to be taking a tile, adding that tile to your city, and that's going to affect the buildings around it. It's going to affect sometimes buildings that aren't around it. It's going to affect buildings that are in other people's cities, because you're all basically building the same city, and you are trying to, keep up, get victory points, but also trying to get people to move to your city. Here's a picture of somebody's city. So this is the end of a 2-player game, and this is their little section of the city. You can see there's different types of buildings. You got residential, commercial, industrial, and up here you have your income and your reputation. That's how much you get each turn, and you need to deal with that and use it. And different buildings will help you get income, which is great, but that's not actually what makes you win the game. And people are going to be moving to your city because of your reputation. I really like it. Now, Z and some other people say that the game itself looks ugly. I can see that point of view. For me, it doesn't matter. I like kind of this top-down. It almost feels like an app look to the game, and it's one that I like quite a bit. Suburbia. Number 82 is Ora and Labora. Now, this is a game that, honestly, there's another one I'm surprised is in the top 100 because I very rarely hear about this one. Now, I like Ora and Labora, but I've not played it much. Part of the reason I like Ora and Labora, it has kind of a neat wheel system here. Let's take a closer look. There's different resources here on the board, and this wheel is going to be moving, changing the number of resources that are out there at any given point in time. And so you can do some really cool things with that. There's also a lot of cards in the game, and these cards are going to affect each other, and you're going to put them out, and you're going to score points all over the place. There's a lot of pieces in this game, a lot of different resources, and you all have these little card things that you're building in front of yourself. There's a lot of similarities to the other popular games from Uwe, Le Havre, and Agricola and Caverna, but this is a very different game. There's less luck involved in Ora and Labora. It's basically going to be played off the other players, and the scoring is the most complex, I think, of any of his games. Maybe not complex, but in depth. I like it. I just don't like it as much as the other ones. And you can say, well, that doesn't mean it's in the top 100 because of what other people like. I get that. But my concern with Ora and Labora is that I feel that I never see anyone playing this one. I still see people talking and playing Agricola and Caverna and Le Havre. Those three I see, and Feast for Odin, right? Those are the big 4 for Uwe. This one is definitely would be in the big 5. I just don't hear this one talked about as much. But hey, maybe they'll do a reprint of it at some point and we'll hear more about it. And the last one for this video here is Star Realms. Now, Star Realms is not a big, grandiose game. I remember when Star Realms came out, it was so hot. The One Origins where they released it in 2014, everyone was playing it everywhere. It's a deck-building game that the box that you see here, this box here is 2 players, that kind of built on other deck-building games. It built a little bit on Ascension, sort of, where you have these cards, and you're adding these cards, and you're just consistently attacking the other player. You're building up your own thing, you are attacking the other person, trying to make their life go down. And there was like fiddly life cards, I thought that was a little bit fiddly, and you needed to buy 2 packs for a multiplayer game, and the multiplayer game didn't even work that well. You know, it works best if you just attack the person on your left or right or whatever. But as a 2-player game, phenomenal. Everywhere you went, you saw people playing Star Realms. Not to mention, super portable. So the game, you know, you can take it here and play with this. This game is still having promo cards made for it, expansions made for it. It spawned another game that's very popular, Hero Realms. This game just did well overall. So this one does not surprise me at all that was in here, because I know that people just really enjoy the game, and that is Star Realms. All right, folks, that's 10 more games in the series of the top 100 of all time at Board Game Geek as of January 2018. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. Thanks for watching The Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.